Dynamic GT League. La Coppa. Dell'Asino. Rampante. Dynamic GT League. La Coppa dell'Asino Rampante.
Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's La Coppa Dell'Asino Rampante for race 5 from Cirque de la Sarthe, otherwise known as Le Mans with Le Chickens. Okay, take a look at the current standings. SGP leading the way, 15 ahead of Steve F1, who's got a 5-point gap over Demon R. Jason is in 4th on 50 points, and there's a bit of a gap, 12 points to Fluffy and Conrad, who are tied 5th. And Dave the Harp sits in 7th place on 30 points. He's got a 5-point gap to Mitch in 8th, and then Art Pal 2 behind in 9th. Rich Blues in 10th on 21 points, while SRI is 1 behind him on 11th place. Jimmy on 18 points, 12th place for him, and then we've got Bunsel on 16, Hay on 15, tied there with Twilight, and Gary and Tyler both tied on 10 points in 16th place. Okay, qualifying. Only 2 laps available for the drivers, with it being such a long lap, so let's have a look at the result of the qualifying session. And Steve F1 takes pole position with a 402.104, but look how small that gap is to Demon Art, 0.024, and to Twilight, 0.094. Great lap times from them. SGP lost a bit on those laps, 1.1 behind. On row 3 we've got Dave the Harp, who'll line up alongside Art Pal. On row 4 we've got Jimmy, who'll line up alongside Fluffy, who's sporting a new helmet. On row 5 we've got Formula Gary, and then we've got Rich Blues alongside him, and on row 6 we've got Bunsel, who'll start 11th. Unfortunately, a few drivers missing today: Jason, Connor, Mitch, Hay and SRI, all unable to race today. So let's see how the other 11 are going to get on as we get ready for all of the action. So let's hand over to the commentators. So here we go then for Cirque de la Sarthe, Le Mans with Le Chicken, and we've got Ray in the commentary box with us. How are you, Ray?
I'm doing very well. How's yourself?
I'm great. As the lights are about to go out, and Fluffy's on his way already, but then everybody else gets going. I think it's fair to say Fluffy has just done the biggest ever jump start in DGT history, as Steve F1 leading the way into Dunlop Curve, turn 1. Demon R having a sneaky little look, and Twilight still sitting in 3rd.
Yep, and I thought Demon R was looking for another one, but it looks as if he's just following her now. We're going to see SGP on the back of Twilight here. No, not yet.
Yeah, not making the moves at the moment, but then saying that, there's a few big straights coming along, Ray, where the drivers will be able to attempt making moves. Although the right-hander they've just gone through, tricky corner, very easy to get it wrong, and then 3rd Rouge, which leads onto the main straight. Yeah, Demon R right up behind Steve F1, probably too close. Not really going to get any benefit of Slipstream being that close, so bump drafted him down the straight. Yeah, I think if you pulled out to try and overtake, he wouldn't really be going any faster, as in the background it's looking a little bit busy on the pack cam around Art Pound, as yeah, Demon R now does make a move to the inside as they make their way towards the PlayStation chicane. Holy crap, I already can't talk.
Yeah, Demon R.
Oh, big crash in the background. Sorry, Jimmy got nailed. I didn't see who by, but yeah, on the pack cam. Sorry, go on, Ray.
Yeah, I thought Demon R was going to make the move there, but he would have been in the wrong side for the exit of the chicane. Little power play.
Absolutely, he has got the slipstream now. You can see him gaining, pulls out to move alongside. He'll now have the inside line again, but it could be, as you said, Ray, the wrong line for the exit of the corner. Steve F1 tries to hang it in there. Does he know he's backed out of it? Maybe thinking, oh, you know what, I'll get you back on the next straight, but he's going to have to be careful at Twilight, sporting his gold livery, which means only one thing: he's either got way too much money or he's a champion, and that's 2 things.
I don't know, I think he's with the big star and the gold, he's compensating for something else.
It could be.
Yeah. Gonna wait? No,
Twilight's coming in hot. Oh, Oh no, Steve, is he going to make the gravel? No, Neil, Twilight's trying to again. Oh, we've got more contact in the background. Fluffy and Bunzel got together. And Dave the Harper's now ended up in second place. I didn't fully see what happened there. It looked like Twilight may have called the back of Steve, but I don't know if Twilight was assisted. SGP's dropped down as well. So there's been a costly corner down at the Mulsanne curve. I don't know what to make of that, Ray.
No, listen, I didn't see how Twilight ended up on the back of Steve F1, but if there was contact from behind, but yeah, as you say, SGP's further back down and somebody gone to India. No, they'll make it. Oh, Jimmy,
really?
A wee bit wide there.
It may have sounded like I was constipated as they were going around there, but I was watching the pack cameras. Cars were slotted into tricky positions. Yeah, I've got to be careful of just focusing on the pack cam. But it does go to show it's very handy. And also F1 copying us with that. Steve F1, is he making a move on Art Powell? He's having a look as they make their way towards the Porsche curves. Steve F1 will have the inside for the right-hander. Is he going to get ahead? Oh, Jimmy in the background trying to make a move on Gary as well. Art Powell going for a switchback.
He's doing a switcheroo, but he's given Steve F1 inside line to the double lefter here.
Ah, that he has.
I think he's settled back down and just let Steve F1 have his position now.
Yeah, I mean, Steve F1 was definitely a little bit quick. Or Gary lost a bit of ground in the background. Twilight's on him now. I mean, I know Art Powell was struggling a little bit in the warm-up around this track. It's not the easiest of tracks until you get to really know it. There's SGP on the back of Art Powell now, especially this final double chicane, Ray. Very easy to do like SGP did there. It hit the curb and end up, I was going to say end up wrong, but that actually wouldn't have made much sense.
No, he could have ended up in the gravel there. Just that red sausage cobra is evil in that chicane.
Yeah, stay away from Les Savoy. Oh, SGP having a cheeky look up into one. I don't call the kink turn one, I never have. But yeah, so there we go. Gary is under a lot of pressure in the background on the pack cam. SGP hasn't.
Weight.
Well, that's no way to talk about my weight, Raymond. Do you not know? Do you not know that I've been diagnosed as type 2 diabetic? Which means every time I see Richard's car and think of Jamaican ginger cake, I get hungry, but I know I can't have it because of too much sugar. And the thing, what makes it worse is there isn't any jokes about sugar, and jokes about brown sugar, demerara. Come on, you got to give me that. That was a good set.
As you see, SGP going to try and get the move on. Art Powell, but look at the pack cam, it is mental. What went to...
Yeah, PlayStation chicane. Oh, Ridge! I don't know where Ridge was going. I think he must have heard me joke because he's just driven off to get Jamaican ginger cake. You know you're going to use that joke. You know you will. It's a good one. So Arpal still on the back of SGP. Gary, he's getting absolutely swamped. Jimmy's coming in on there as well as we see him on the main screen now. Oh, this could be tricky down into the second chicane. The Michelin chicane. It looks like Gary hasn't backed out. I thought he'd backed out of me on the pack cam, but he hasn't. And he's got ahead of SGP. Oh, dearie me.
Oh, what a move.
What? You're absolutely right. What a move.
But to be fair, there could have been contact there because he came from a far distance back, but he nailed that in one there. I think, what was that saying? Famous senator?
Oh,
it's like, yeah.
If you no longer go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. Although that's actually not what he said. It is slightly different, and that saying that I just said is what people believe he said, but that's not what he said. It's just one of those things. It's a little bit like Houston, we have a problem. Isn't actually what was said. Is there? Oh.
Yeah, but somebody ghosted from back there.
Well, it is Halloween. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's Twilight.
Is he writing messages?
Well, maybe he's turning into a werewolf at Halloween. Okay, so what?
Still asking if he'd be like that in bed as well.
Bloody hell. What, Harry? or going, right, just a recap, everybody. Demon R leading the way at the moment. Got a bit of a gap to Dave the Harp, and then we've got Steve F1 who's pulling a bit of a gap on SGP. SGP is now pulling a little bit of a gap on ArtPal. ArtPal's got everybody behind him, starting with Jimmy and Gary. Having a look at the inside of Jimmy, decides to think better about that one. A wise decision going into the Porsche curves, that as well. Not really somewhere you want to go side by side. It can be done, but it is a very high speed set of corners, so you can end up wide, you can end up wobbling, you can end up contacting other cars. We may see that over the course of the race. Tyres, Ray, we talked a little bit about the tyres last week of what they might be like round here. Hot and cold, like that Katy Perry song, or Buzzsaw, big tank slapper.
Yeah, I've just seen that in the back. Yeah, the tyres got a bit cold down the straights, a wee bit heated up through the chicanes and curves and that, but I think when I was testing, somebody, who was that? Is that Rich?
It was, yeah. Rich struggling with the final chicanes. It's easily done.
When I was testing the track, when I was hitting the brake, the back end seemed not to settle much on the brakes. Don't know if that was a case of cold tyres and cold brakes, but yeah, the guys are under tricky conditions. How far the tyres would last, I don't know. I would say in the pack, we might pit once, maybe twice, but the front runners, I don't know. I don't have a clue with them.
Well,
they surprise us every week.
Definitely. Demon R there. You see the gap that Demon R has got on Dave the Harp already. And Steve F1 is closing in on Dave the Harp as Gary stood under pressure on the pack cam. There's SGP, and there comes ArtPal. ArtPal still staying ahead of the pack, just. It might not last long as Fluffy and Gary are looking at trying to make moves. It's one of the difficulties here. If you're ahead on to the long straight, you're gonna get mugged, or you might be able to leave the chicane with your biscuits intact. Oh dear! Or you could end up like Bunsell with your nose ripped off because you've just banged it up against a wall. So ArtPal loses that position to Gary there, but it's not the end of the world because you've got a big long straight to try and retake position. New camera on the pack cam again, looking forwards. The cameraman are getting a bit spicy here.
We'll soon see that in the front, don't worry.
You know what, I reckon we will. Well, actually, helmet cam will be the next one. They're not putting a helmet cam on me. You'll see me tilting my head even though I'm not going anywhere. Oh, someone just went flying off.
Yeah, somebody just went straight on. Was it Bunter?
It might have been because he has lost ground there. Jimmy and Rich getting a little bit too close for comfort. Gary and Fluffy got nowhere to go. They're being swamped around the outside. This could get tricky now down into the Mulsanne kink. So we've got the kink, which isn't quite flat out. You do need to be on the brakes before it really. Oh, it's Rich! I don't know if he was good for the overtake or taking evasive, but Fluffy's realised he's there. If Rich can hang that in there, nearly. That was nearly. What a move moment.
Yeah. Rich and Gary, what have they been doing? They've been practising a lot of moves.
You know what? They may well have been. We were mentioning about the tyres. Well, yeah, tyre and how long they'll last. If you look after them, they can last the distance. But looking at how frantic the pack is, they may benefit from pitting because they're not getting further ahead than ArtPal at the moment. Whereas, Fluffy! Oh, that's Indianapolis.
Yep, he's away to India.
Yeah. He did.
Get yourself a tiger.
He nearly went again then. And it is Indianapolis. I know it's not Indianapolis, but I thought I'd put a twist on it.
Indianapolis. If you're Scottish.
It's a crazy fact for you. In India, the police officers, if they have a moustache, I think I've told you this before, if they have a moustache, they get paid more. Because there seem to be rich! Well, they're not seen to be rich, unlucky. No, they seem to be more reliable and trustworthy because they've got a moustache. Okay, so yeah, tyres, I think for the guys in the pack, if they pit, they'll get enough boost around here that they'll catch back up. Because I think if you pit and come out last, the amount of boost you can get is about 12 seconds a lap if you're last. So it would only take a couple of laps, really. Oh, Jimmy has just assisted Gary through the chicane. Gary survives, Jimmy survives. Art Pal will be wondering how he got a bit closer. Fluffy heading into the pits for an early pit stop. There's a wall there, Fluffy. Oh dear, I know you want new tyres, but you have to get them from your pit box, not the wall.
Yeah, and surprised. I thought Gary was going well off because he hit the sausage and the chicane that sent him up in the air a wee bit. But yeah. Thank God Fluffy has it on his bike, got into the pits.
I'll tell you what, he's still not actually got to his pit box. I think his crew are going to be... Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, the tyres are getting cold, sitting there.
The message is getting through. He put it into the wall. He's here now. Here comes Fuffley. As on the main screen, we've got Jimmy and Gary nearly side by side through Tertre Rouge. Arpal's got a little bit of a gap here, but you need about a second. Maybe a little bit more in the pack to stay ahead on the straight. David Harp still got Steve F1 behind him. Steve F1 hasn't been able to catch him yet. He closed the gap a bit, but not got onto the back of him. Gary, though, coming under a bit of pressure here.
I think Pal's playing it wisely here. He's jumping from side to side to give different cars slipstream.
Jimmy! Ooh. Yeah, I'm glad he backed out of that. He went a bit wide. Yeah, so you're saying he's splitting the slipstream then?
Yeah. So when there was two side by side, he was going from one to the other. So they would be staying at the same distance and battling each other, and that giving more stress. And chicane, as we see Gary coming here, is he going to go for it? No, he's...
No, I think Jimmy's going for everything. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think Gary may have done a bit of bump drafting down that middle straight, realising what Arpal had done on the previous one. I mean, if you were going to try and make a move, the place to really try and do it would be into Mulsanne Kink and this right-hander coming up, or start a move there and finish it at Indianapolis. And then hope to try and open up a bit of a gap. But at the moment, Arpal's been able to keep them just behind him. So maybe Gary being pressured by Jimmy is just enough to keep Gary occupied to not really close that gap in.
Yeah, and like you're saying, yeah, into the Mulsanne Kink, if you can have them out of position, and you can break hard on the inside line for the corner, and then maybe try and get the run out the corner for this bit, but I don't know how good the slipstream and how quickly you'd catch up.
Oh, Gary's going for it! Oh, he nearly didn't make it. Oh, I think Arpal, he may have just realised a little late that Gary was going for that one, but I thought that's what Gary might be waiting for, but he's got a bit wide. He go on the AstroTurf. Jimmy's up there as well. Arpal will have a run on Gary here as they make their way towards the Porsche curves. I think Arpal may eventually get ahead. Bunsell weaving. No, Gary is. Well, they're side by side. Oh, Jimmy's coming in as well. There's a bit of a gap. He's having a look. Oh, the gap has disappeared. 3 wide into the Porsche curves. That's brave, especially in a Ferrari. And in comes Bunsell and says, I want some of this action. And actually overtakes 2 cars.
Well, you came in with that bomber there. Just bombed. That's crazy stuff through there.
Absolutely.
Is Gary going to go back for it for the chicane? No, Jimmy's going for the inside again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he got.
He did. So Gary's gone from overtaking Arpal to losing 3 places. Jimmy on the charge. Jimmy on the... Oh, I don't know if that was evasive. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. That ain't evasive.
But that's not a pit box.
Jimmy, what was that?
Jimmy.
I've got a new one for Jimmy. Jimmy, are you okay? Are you okay, Jimmy? Jimmy, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Jimmy? Because you've been hit by. You've been struck by a tire wall.
You have to have a job. As we've seen, Steve F1 maybe a wee bit closer.
I worked on that all week. Even before I knew we'd had a crash. Because it would have worked with anybody, because you've been hit by Twilight.
Yeah, we see Twilight's he's kind of struggling in the Ferraris, isn't he?
He
They done
definitely
a
is.
great. Did they not do a great qualifying time?
He did, yeah. You know what? He had the pace in qualifying. He got a lap in, which he was absolutely delighted with. And to be fair, it was a good lap. He's actually looking to try to make a move on Rich Blues here, but yeah, not quite got the speed.
0.094 away from
Yeah. So within a tenth of Steve F1's pole position time. This is the thing. He's got the pace around here. I think. Oh wow, Art Powell. I think that is a brake failure.
Did they not know there was
A corner there.
When was that? Was that the PlayStation? Did it glitch out?
Maybe just got hungry and wanted some chicken. I was going to say yes.
I wanted some ginger, whatever you call it.
Jamaican ginger cake. Twilight, yeah, so we've talked about Twilight. He still hasn't got past Rich, but that's because Rich has been using Bunsel's slipstream. Oh, but now Rich is out of shape. Oh, Twilight taking evasive. No, don't spin on into the barrier. Okay, that's what you call unlucky. But yeah, so I think Twilight was unfortunate with that collision. I don't know if it was his fault or not in that first lap, but that put him from sort of battling for second right into the pack, and yeah, he's been unlucky since then. And to be honest, Ray, I mean, this is a track where when things go wrong for you, they can very easily continue to go wrong and get worse and get worse and get worse.
Yeah, because you end up driving a wee bit angry, and later on the brakes, which doesn't even help, and then they're not getting a better exit out the corner. As we can see in the pack cam, Steve F1 is catching Dave the Harp there.
Yeah.
I just caught that out the corner eye.
I tell you what though, Demon R's got about a 7-second lead at the moment. Looking at it, I mean, let's see when they come around the corner there. So Demon R's opened up a nice big gap here to Dave the Harp. And as you were saying, Steve F1's still there behind Dave, but hasn't actually caught up to the back of him.
Do you think Demon R's got enough? He's not got enough time to get up and stop.
Well, no. Yeah, well, it's pit stop around
there.
here.
There's a gap, but it's like 2 wee packs. I think, if anything, he'll come in between the middle of the start of the second pack, or right in between the second pack. Well, it's actually 3 packs that are there. I've just seen on the track map that somebody was spinning.
True. So Twilight just made a nice little move on Bunsel, heading towards the Porsche curves. Richard's caught back up to Bunsel as well. But yeah, I think, well, pit stop costs about 30 seconds around here. So yeah, I think if the leaders pit, they may actually come out last now, because there's a few cars that have pitted and got boost and caught back up. As Steve F1 hasn't pitted, he's still behind Dave the Harp. So yeah, we're just gone halfway distance. So if people were going to one-stop it, now's not a bad time to pit. Whether any Art Powell into the pits, I wonder if he got in there the same way Twilight and Jimmy did, although I'll be surprised if the wall's still there after Jimmy's hit it.
They both straight line it now.
Yep. Well, the other interesting thing is, I mean, some people may be watching this and thinking this isn't very exciting up at the front, but actually it is. We know that Dave the Harp tends to work his tyres a little bit more. Steve F1 is now closer. This is the closest he's been in 20 minutes. He's really on the back of him. Now we may get the slipstream as the pack cam goes to look at Twilight and Steve F1. Yeah, he's definitely there. So he'll have the opportunity. So as soon as he's got within slipstream range, he's got the chance. He moves to the inside, heading towards the PlayStation chicane. So I was going to mention about whether, like, Dave the Harp, is he going to have to pit, or is he going to go for an overtake back on Steve F1? No, he's decided better of it. But that's the other thing. Is Steve F1 pushing so hard that he's going to need a pit stop? Is Demon R pushing even harder, trying to break away so that he can get a pit stop in and lose as little time as possible? Only time will tell.
Yeah, and Dave the Harp and Steve F1 battling can only add more help to Demon R, because they're going to slow each other down. And it's going to give Demon R that time to get away, as Dave the Harp's looking for it as we come into Mitchell in the chicane.
He's going for it. He's got it as well. Steve F1 not fighting.
Went
Oh, yeah, he got a wobble on, didn't he? That's the scarce version of Batman. Dinny. I made that. Where's your sound effect, Raymond?
I took it out so because people keep complaining about the audio levels that you keep faking up.
Oh, wobbly Dave! Is he going to get it stopped? He is. He's got the move done. What a move!
I know. That was close, and that's what I was saying about the brakes. The back end just wobbles and wants to kick out, and Dave's just experienced that in the Mulsanne curve. Kink.
Yeah, that he has.
Oh, Steve F1's coming back at him. He's not letting him
Oh,
pass.
so I've just
What
seen
a
on
great
the.
battle.
It is a great battle, isn't it? I just saw on the Patcom as well. I think Twilight's just ended up in the barrier. But yeah, Steve F1 and Dave, they are going at it. This is a great battle. This is helping Demon R open up a gap. It's helping SGP close in as well. Although he's not closing in as quickly as I thought he would. But with looking at the time, Ray, I think if these guys were going to pit, I think they need to do it now because there's only 16 and a half minutes left. It's 4 minutes a lap, 4, 8, 12, 6. That's only 4 laps.
I just seen Mitch coming straight deep into near enough the back of Bunsell, but
You've just seen Rich coming deep into Bunsell. That is not anything. Sorry, Rich, but
But yeah, no. How's like we know Dave the Harp is a tyre burner. How is this battle affecting his tyres? Like he is holding his own against Steve F1, who we know can save tyres, like him, SGP, Demon R. But Dave the Harp a wee bit wide there. Is the tyre effect hitting him now?
it could well be. And like you mentioned, if he starts braking a little bit late, it won't help him. They slide. Yeah, that went a little bit deep as well. So he's pushing to try and stay ahead, but. I mean, the last thing you'd want to do is sort of not fight Steve too hard and then just watch Steve drive off into the distance. At the end of the day, Dave's doing a bit of Dave friends at the moment to try and fight the Steve friends. So yeah, Dave helping out Demon R at the moment.
Oh yeah, I just clicked on that there.
Yeah. Rich Blues into the pits as well. But
what's he talking about? Dave friends?
Yeah.
Oh, right, Demon R.
Yeah.
Oh, Twilight coming, going for a move on Bunsell into the first chicane.
That he
he's
is.
got it
Oh,
there.
Steve F1, look, he went for a little bit of a switchback. He doesn't want to overtake, though, into Terre Rouge. He knows that. He may be a little bit too close. He's caught Dave. He's making the move already. Okay, so he's not going to get any benefit of slipstream. He had the better run out of the corner, but now he's given the slipstream to Dave. Dave will have the slipstream down into the chicane. Gary has got Twilight behind him.
Want to take it, though.
Oh, he's bump drafted him.
He's bum drafting him. He's going like, I'm wait my time.
Yeah. Oh, now he's having a look.
He's sticking his nose out there.
Yeah.
He's backed out.
Oh, Steve wobbling though.
Area.
Oh, Dave sliding. Yeah, Steve was wobbling under braking. He definitely pushed it on the brakes there, and that may be why Dave ended up sliding as Gary coming under a lot of pressure from Twilight and Bunsell. Because that's the thing, if you see the car ahead brake late and you're braking with it, you might end up sliding about a bit too much. Bunsell taking offensive. He doesn't take offensive, he gives offensive.
Yeah.
Hey, Ray, you're a dog lover, aren't you? Yeah, well, I don't mean like you have sex with dogs. I mean you have
What is that popping nose? Are you looking at a bottle of wine or something?
popping nose. No, it's probably fireworks.
Oh, that makes it fireworks. It's like you're opening a bottle of wine in class. You drank a bottle of wine already. It was only 2 minutes ago you opened one.
I know. I tell you what, I've been really good. I haven't had an alcoholic drink for about 3 weeks now.
Oh, I couldn't match that.
Well,
As a Halloween party last night. So.
Well, yeah, that is true. I see the pictures. Gary and Twilight still battling. Gary trying to retake the place. Dave the Harp is still with Steve F1, by the way. Steve has dropped him a little bit, but 2 by 2. Gary and Twilight, Bunsell and Jimmy are going. But yeah, so side by side, Bunsel's got ahead of Jimmy. Is he going to get it slowed down? Oh, Jimmy does, and Jimmy takes the place, and he's got to run on Twilight here because he's got the slipstream from Gary. But yeah, I've been drinking sparkling water and black currant juice. I found a drink that I like, so yeah, I've been keen in that recently. And yeah, so I was asking you, like, you're a dog lover, because obviously I know you've got a dog. Well, I've got a new dog, and I decided to call him Cigarette. He's got no legs, and every morning I take him out for a drag. That one was from Bunsel. I told you. Oh, Jimmy! I told you, Bunsel, offensive.
Jimmy's just brought that back in Twilight. Is he going to go for the switcheroo on Gary here? I don't think he's got it. Gary held on to that place well. So we see in the pack cam, Demon R, like you can't even see Steve F1 in the back facing camera. So and then Steve F1. Dave's just hanging in there. He is dropping off slowly. But,
he is, but he's got a gap to SGP, hasn't he?
Yeah, SGP's gap got bigger there because the gap got bigger because he was a lot closer the last time I looked down at the back cam and he was fine. Oh, this is a bit messy here.
It is Twilight, right in the thick of the action. Okay, and we've got 12 minutes for it. That's about 3 laps we've got. Oh, Twilight's going in there a bit quick, is he? No, he's all right.
He's got Artpal over the move. Is he going to back out? No, Artpal sticking it in.
Good driving all round. Well, good driving all round, and then Twilight got a massive trip to the corner. Obviously not ideal. And Gary making a move on Jimmy.
Out the chicane. That's pretty good.
That it is. I mean, one thing we will say about the pack, it's always full of action. There's some brilliant driving, there's sometimes some amazing driving, and there's sometimes some amazing crashing. But
some questionable driving.
Every now and again, as 2 cars get door to door. But, I mean, we mentioned it last week, obviously, I think I mentioned it last week, that Gary, it's been noticeable that he's been really trying to work on his awareness of cars around him and try and not get penalties and stuff like that. And let's face it, it's not easy. I mean, Gary's coming onto a straight now where, give it about 4 seconds, and he's going to have 4 cars trying to overtake him. So it isn't easy to be aware of where everybody is.
Yeah, especially here in the long straights, if you've got 4 people behind you, you're going to worry when you're going to brake for the chicane and that as well, because you don't want to be part of an accident that could happen. Oh, it's Jimmy!
A bit like that.
Yeah, but with that I wouldn't see that Gary could do anything there, so yeah, people could say, oh, he cut the corner, but he had the back contact.
Yeah, he was assisted to it. And Jimmy gave him the place back. So as these guys are now 3 wide, trying to work out which slipstream they want to take, they're going to have to get ready, as you've mentioned, for the braking point. Because that's obviously the really tricky bit. Oh, Pal's wobbling under braking. Bunsel realising there's a car next to him, he couldn't move across. Jimmy sliding. No surprise there. Jimmy, I think, realised he couldn't move across. See, that's a bit where you could go
round outside of him.
Ooh, Twilight.
Not but Twilight, sorry. Apologies. I was wondering where he was going to come out, but he's still stuck with them. 4 wide, 3 wide, I can't see.
This could get interesting. Down into the king. Jimmy's moved across in front. I think Artpal's wisely back. See, this is where it's wiser to back out of it and go, right, I'll let you all go too fast into the corner like Gary just did there. Gary's lost out to Jimmy. Artpal's got to run on Twilight. Now he's got Gary's slipstream. But Gary's a little bit slower out of the corner, which is going to lead Artpal to want to pass him. But Artpal's now got slipstream off nobody. And Bunsel's got slipstream on the outside from Jimmy. And now Gary's getting it in the middle, so it looks like Jimmy's sharing the slipstream as well.
Yeah, he's trying to play that tactical, try to keep him battling and keep himself ahead.
Bunsel! Oh, you lucky sod.
I was waiting for the contact for somebody to go flying there.
Yeah.
Never seen any. Well
He
done,
done well to avoid carnage. Sorry, he did well to avoid Arnage, which is called after Indianapolis for anyone that doesn't realise. Okay, how long have we got left? 8 minutes. Ooh, Demon R, where is he? He's heading towards the last few corners, isn't he? So I think he is about to start the penultimate lap. So we've got 2 laps to go, Ray. And at the moment, it doesn't look like Steve F1 is really going to be able to catch Demon R. SGP has caught up to Dave the Harp. So Demon R has been caught a little bit by Steve F1, but oh yeah.
Coming out that chicane there.
Yeah, so maybe Dave is struggling a little bit with his tyres, and it's in the corners where SGP has felt the benefit.
How long have we got left?
7 minutes, 10 seconds.
And Dave the Harp hasn't pitted. Well, we do another the last 5 minute pit stop.
Well, I tell you what, if he's in the situation he's in now, with Jimmy and Gary are side by side over the start finish line, I don't think he should pit. We've seen him do it before, but if he pits now, he's coming out dead last with 1 lap to go. I think he's got to keep going. Worst case scenario, he crashes and ends up last. Second worst case scenario, SGP gets past him and he ends up 4th. He may have a bit of a spin as well, but he's got a big gap to Jimmy in 5th. So I think, yes, stay out. If I was in Dave the Harp's shoes, I'd stay out.
Yeah, if SGP gets ahead of him, just get that slipstream, that extra speed.
Absolutely, all.
By the looks of it, I thought he was going to smack him there.
Yeah. But the interesting thing as well, if he takes it a little easy now behind SGP, not braking late or anything like that, he may find, if he's been struggling a bit on the tyres, he may find they come back to him. Artpal bump drafting Jimmy as Gary closes in. Artpal trying to make the move on the pack cam as SGP is opening up a little bit of a gap to Dave the Harp. Artpal can't quite get past Jimmy, still giving him a little bit of a bump draft. Gary backs out of it.
What we forgot to mention, as we see SGP going down the middle of the road, even though there's the 2 broken white lines at the side of the track, it's dirty out there, so
yes,
when you're out there, your tyres are getting dirty.
Like when you're out there, SGP.
Yeah. See him kicking up the dirt.
Yeah, so
the Harp's coming back at him.
Yeah, so where SGP is there, that's actually not the track. Although it's not. It is really dirty, like you were saying, yeah. So when guys go 4 wide, 2 are probably on a dirty bit of track, and that's another reason why. Okay, as these guys are coming down to the kink, if they go over the white line, Dave goes over the white line there on his left, it'll get really wobbly under braking for him because it's half dirty, half clean. That's why he stayed to the right of it.
SGP was just going to close the door on Dave the Harp and send him out wide there. That was just nice timing.
Looking on the pack cameras, Dave the Harp. I mean, it's interesting. Dave the Harp he's right there still with, isn't he? So I don't think he is struggling for tyres. Artpal is right in the thick of things. He's now in 5th with Gary right behind him as Dave the Harp is battling side by side. No, it's okay. Maybe he's just decided, no, I don't want to fight this. Yeah, as we've got a new camera on Formula Gary looking at Artpal's rear end, and he's on the dirty bit. He's on the dirty bit. It won't be nice under braking for Gary out there. And he's trying to move back on. And Dave the Harp and SGP battling. No, Artpal got the cleaner line. He's on the brakes. I think Gary realised he was on the dirty bit. So into Indianapolis they go, but Artpal's round wide.
Yeah, and this is going to bring who we're on?
It's Gary.
Yeah. I'm too busy watching the main screen. That was dealing the wall.
That was very close to the wall. The thing is, right behind Gary is 3 other cars ready to pounce as Dave the Harp really is still with SGP there. Let's see, Steve F1 has closed in a bit on Demon R, but I don't think he can do enough because we are going to be starting the last lap of the race as the pack is as it should be. Bonkers.
Mental.
Gary's just lost out to Jimmy. Jimmy's done some interestingly sneaky overtakes in this race.
Yeah, especially at the Porsche curves. He's been doing it a couple of times, hasn't he?
Yeah. See if he struggles. I think he struggles a
it's
bit.
always on
Whoa! Bye, Rich. Oh dear. That's
Can I get the Jamaican ginger biscuits before you go?
Demerara. Oh, Jimmy's fast into the chicane. It's too fast though. It's sideways. He manages to hold it, but I don't think Gary realised that Jimmy was next to him. But that's hurt Gary more than helped him. He may actually be letting Jimmy back through as well. Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, those last corners, it's not a corner you want to get out of shape in, especially if you've got cars behind you. Interestingly, SGP has dropped Dave the Harp a little bit, but to be fair, I think if Dave the Harp just sort of focuses on make no errors right now, he'll bag some decent points.
That's not the first time in this season Dave the Harp's went a full race without a pit stop.
I think it might be.
Done to him, especially at this track.
Whoa! Fluffy was flying, then the Bollards does it. Yeah, I mean, this is not the easiest of tracks to not pit at. I have been hearing as well that he was wanting to pit, but he was advised not to. And to be honest, I think that was good advice, because he'd have been stuck with this.
We've got more radio interaction. Fluffy telling him to pit. He wants to pit.
Yeah. Jimmy trying to make a move on Art Pal here. He's got the outside line heading towards the PlayStation chicane. Fluffy's got in there way too hot. He's collected Art Pal and Jimmy. Oh, and it's a massive crash. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Art Pal is stationary.
That's unlucky for that, Paul.
Yeah.
As we see Fluffy, it's slowly letting formerly Gary through here. Dave the Harp isn't dropping that
He's
far
not,
back,
is
so
he? He's still there. If SGP gets a corner wrong, Dave's still there. As Fluffy, he looks like he's slow, but he's going to have to wait for Art Pal. I'm guessing that's who he's trying to wait for. Actually no, he's picked his pace up again. Art Pal's not far away. Twilight was off the track. Fluffy's in the wall. He may be trying to see where Art Pal is. Either he's looking to see where he is or he's not waiting. We'll have to wait and see. Bunsell in a position to attack Jimmy as they made their way into the Mulsanne curve. The King behind him got a little bit busy with Rich, I believe. Rich, Fluffy, Twilight. Fluffy sideways. That's Art Pal in the background, I think, flashing his lights. I think that Morse code says, wait for me. Yeah, exactly. Okay, just so you know, with the leaders, Demon R is just heading towards the Porsche curves now. Steve F1 has closed the gap as Gary and Bunsell side by side, but Steve F1 has not been able to close it enough. Bunsell and Gary side by side. Bunsell will get that slowed down easy. He managed to avoid everybody when he was off track there. So big tank slapper on the way out. Rich is in the background as well.
Gary looking for a move on Jimmy, but he's on the outside line. Is he going to get it? It's going to be interesting.
Bunsell nearly in the wall. I'm just going to mention as well, Fluffy is still ahead of Art Pal at the moment as we cut away to look at Demon R. So Pac-Cam is on Jimmy. So Demon R coming into the Ford chicane to take his first win in the Coppa Dell'Asino Rampante. It's about time. So a win. So a win for Demon R. Steve F1 crossing the line will take second. SGP, if you don't mess it up, it's going to be third. Dave the Arp, well done to Dave the Arp. Fourth place at the moment. We're all sort of looking at that pack cam because Jimmy is potentially in danger, or is it Rich that's in danger? As we're now on the main screen. Ooh, this is not over. This is not over.
Is Gary going to catch up on Jimmy?
I'm not sure.
Oh, no.
Rich is sideways, he's off track. Oh no, Twilight's collecting him. Fluffy's there as well. And Gary is chaos at the final corners. And Art Pal's been collected by Rich as well. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's disaster. It's disaster at the end for Art Pal. I didn't get to see whether Fluffy actually managed to let him past or not. And we'll have to see if we can find out on that one. But holy cow, what a race! What a race!
Yeah, that was a great race. Fun to watch.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, interestingly, Demon R's first win looked fairly comfortable out there, to be honest. Was assisted with that crash on the first lap, but looked like he just managed it from there. We've seen it a few times in this championship when someone can get out in front and look after their tyres. They can be quite comfortable because, as we were talking about in that race, you brake a bit late, you overheat the tyres a bit too much, you push them too much, you don't go faster. But yeah, I think got to say though, Dave, what a race from him. Couldn't keep up with Demon R, but was more than fast enough to stay ahead of Steve F1. Just unlucky that on that one occasion where Steve F1 got close, he was able to get the slipstream, which led to a great battle, to be fair. But I wonder if in that phase, Ray, because it was around about halfway through the race, I'm wondering if Dave was thinking at that point, his tyres were going, whereas it may just have been that his tyres were overheated a little bit or a little dirty because of the battle, and he just needed to sort of get through that phase and let them sort of cool down and clean up, which I'm guessing he managed to do because he still had some decent pace towards the end there.
Oh yeah, he didn't. Steve F1 doesn't drop him as much as we would have thought to begin with, and then SGP, he was still there with SGP. Like, what a drive from Dave the Harp.
Yeah,
I'd put him down as racer of the day,
driver of the Dave.
Driver of the Daves. Well, what did he ended up in fourth, so he's a place up from his qualifying, and people in front of him or Twilight, but Twilight had his race the way it panned out. But yeah, Dave the Harp, what an amazing drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that, the gap as well that he managed to hold to fifth. I mean, I gotta say, fair play to Art Pal, Jimmy, Gary, Rich, Bunsell. That pack battle was mental. I don't think I mentioned Twilight there because I was going to say Twilight, I think, was just massively unlucky in that. Personally, I think Twilight had the pace of the front runners, but was unlucky. Ended up in the pack and then, unfortunately could never get away. Also, I think he did pit at least once. So, not that would have made it that much harder, but he would have had to have gone through a phase of losing 30 seconds, getting that back, and then trying to get through.
It's like we always say, once you get into that pack, it's hard to get out of. So, it
really is, and especially around a track like this, because it's like we're saying, you need to really pick where you're going to overtake someone to then try and open up a gap so that when you get to the long straights, they can't catch you up then. That's where around here it's so difficult to do, especially with the boost. Because up at the front, if you've got an 8/10 gap, they can't catch you on the straight, they're out of slipstream. But if you're in, say, 7th, and the car behind you is 8/10 behind, with that little bit of boost, they're on you.
And it's not just the car behind you, it's the other three.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, let boys not get a party down at the PlayStation Cubs. You coming?
Well, Fluffy definitely set one up there, didn't he? I am hearing as well that Fluffy did wait for Art Pal, although perhaps not in the sort of the more conventional way. So ideally, when people are needing to wait, they should be doing it in the soonest safe location. And around here, there's a couple of big straights he could have done it on first. But there may be more about that in the stewards report from what I'm hearing. Because obviously one of the rules one of the things in DGT League is that if you cause a collision, wait for the other person. at the nearest safe location, and you won't get a penalty. If you continuously do it though, continuously crashing into loads of people, you could easily end up with penalties, even if you're waiting, because you should be learning. But there's something I've been thinking recently, Ray, about one of the things in DGT is kind of like how to sum up DGT in a couple of short phrases. By the way, this is not a lead up to a joke. So a couple of phrases that perhaps describe DGT League, and one of them was, in DGT League there's no such thing as it's my corner.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
so
one of them.
yeah, that is one of them. So
Other ones, we're the F1's greatest because they keep fucking copying us.
yeah. FIA keep copying our shit. If they start putting Twitter pictures of post-race comments, we know someone's watching. But yeah, with the
we've got this rule of you must give a car with space. So if you're going round the corner side by side, you've got to give the car with a space. You can't force them off the track.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, well, I had the corner, I had the racing line."
It was my corner. Well, no, it wasn't. There's no such thing.
And what it does, it makes the racing more interesting through some corners, because you've got to think, I have to give them room. Do I want to make a move here around the outside, or do I want to wait and try and get somewhere where I can get on the inside and have them have to go round the outside?
Or do I want to dummy it?
Switchback?
Yeah, do I want to dummy it, get them out of position because they're going to try and leave me space, and then I can take advantage of it. Personally, it 100% creates better racing. But it's one of those things where, like, for example, in Formula 1, that's not a rule they abide by. Personally, I think they should. But in DGT, it is a rule that we abide by, because it's for us, it's friends racing, and it's not about pushing each other off the track. That's what the Dirty Champs series are for, where we can push each other off the track and into walls and shit.
And then what it does is that person overtakes to try and say, "Oh, it's going to be my corner." They could end up dive bombing, which we don't allow, and that to try and get into that zone of, right, it's my corner,
Yeah.
thinking the other person should be giving up. No, you battle it out, leave a car with space, no matter where you are on the track. And
Yep. I mean, I would add to it as well. Obviously, you've got to fairly get alongside someone.
Yeah.
And by alongside, I mean, this was another one. How far alongside does somebody need to be? Any part of their car. I know some people might view it differently, but if you do it by any part of their car...
I viewed it differently in that race.
Yeah.
He's seen a gap and went for it.
We might have to get onto that. So what I was going to say was, so you have to fairly get there. And also, I mean, there is the thing, I know I've mentioned, I think I coined the term of within fair range, which is if you're a car ahead, if a car is behind you, but seem to potentially be close enough that they may have a go fairly, like on the brakes, then that is something that we do consider that sort of within fair range. Someone comes from way too far back, that ain't within fair range, because it comes down to, I mean, this is why I coined that little term of there is no my corner. It explains it short term, but it doesn't go into the details of why. Obviously, we could talk more about these things quite easily. And now I've forgotten what I'm actually fucking talking about.
Yeah. The next live stream comes up and people want to ask questions. That's our time.
Yep. I've forgotten what I was
My corner.
Yeah, late braking, and that's it. Yeah, so a driver ahead for awareness should be look in mirrors, rear view, where are cars, look at the radar, a lot of things they've got to do. But at a certain point, they have to stop doing that and look at where they're driving. So that's where that within fair range comes from, because it's kind of like, okay, there'd be a point where a driver has done all of his looking, seen that he's okay to go for the corner, but when he actually ends up going for the apex, holy cow, there's a car there, where did you come from? Well, if that car has got there unfairly from too far back, then you can't expect the driver in front to have had the opportunity to see them. But that doesn't mean that if they are seen and they avoid it, the dive bomb is okay. So it's an interesting scenario, that. But I thought I'd mention some of this stuff because I know we've had some new people viewing recently and stuff like that. So I thought I'd make it explain why perhaps you don't see people forcing people off on the exits of corners, or if you think, oh well, that person has got the corner, why have they battled through it? It's because there is no such thing as my corner, my racing line. I like the sort of Brian Clough view of it. It's kind of like, if they're not interfering with play, what are they doing on the pitch? And it's the same thing here. There's a racetrack, there's a width to the racetrack, you can use all of the racetrack as long as you do it fairly.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's understandable, and it puts it right into perspective.
That I think it does. Next track. What's the next track?
I don't know. What you asking me?
You know what? I don't know. I think it might be Barcelona.
It's it. No, it's not Barcelona. It's Brazil.
You're right. Yeah, Brazil. I meant to say Brazil, not Barcelona. Yeah.
If it was Barcelona, I'd be practicing.
Yeah. Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
Brazil.
going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tire wear.
Well, yeah, tyre wear. But not only that, I mean, stuff we've just talked about comes into effect there, because there's a lot of corners in that middle sector where people like to have cheeky looks up the inside. And it's one, just because there's a gap there doesn't mean you're fairly getting into it if you're getting into it late. So it's an interesting one. I think we'll see a lot of people defending.
Also, the different lines you can take into the corners.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a point where you need to watch where the cars are going to meet. You've got to what turn. So you go down the first long straight after the start-finish line. Take a left at the end of it, and then you've got that swooping, I think it's third, fourth gear corner.
Yeah.
Some people take it wider and some people take it tighter. There's going to be a point that the cars are going to meet, and that's where you've got to watch out for, that you don't just kind of go, nah, I'm sticking to my line and hit somebody off.
Yeah, I'm going here and this is where I'm going. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one. It's also an interesting one because it can be a bit of a tyre killer, especially if people see that middle sector. You need to brake in straight lines, but that middle sector isn't really very straight. So people that are braking late are going to destroy their tyres. They're going to overheat them, they'll have no grip, and it'll get a bit messy for them. But people who are looking after their tyres are going to be susceptible to people who are on the charge. So it's really tough track for that. I know Dave the Harp is not a fan of that circuit. He says it every time. Steve F1 is, SGP is, Demon R is, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see those three somewhere near the front. Twilight, I don't know how Twilight feels about the Brazil circuit, but I think he deserves to have a little bit of luck go his way, because I could imagine for Twilight there may have been a bit this championship of going, I want to prove that it wasn't the car that got me the championship, and I can understand that. But at the same time, sometimes cars don't suit people, and it would appear that this car doesn't suit Twilight. So what I would say to Twilight is, if he's thinking that he needs
Even
to...
some of the set rules settings like tyre wear, the way the fuel burns and that, sometimes it doesn't set certain people. Like Dave the Harpies took his tyre for a full race. He now knows what his tyres could be like, so
Yeah.
he can take that knowledge into Brazil and go, right, do I really need to pit, or do I just let them sort themselves out?
Exactly. And for Twilight as well, I mean, what I would say is, if you've got any doubts about your confidence or anything, or your ability, don't forget that when you won your championship, you did it without making mistakes. It was consistency, speed, and that's what...
driving.
Yeah, that helped. But that's what won him the races and won him the championship. It wasn't the car. It doesn't matter how fast a car may be. You've got to drive it. So there we go. Right. I just want to let you know that I've seen in the news today that a businessman was confused about a bill he'd received, so he asked his secretary for some mathematical help. I'm terrible with maths, right? But so he asked his secretary for mathematical help. He says, if I were to give you 20 grand minus 14%, how much would you take off? And she said, everything but me earrings.
Oh, Jesus. I don't have the soundboard.
That was a good one, though. Do you want a bad one now?
I thought that was a fucking bad one.
No. No, there's a bad one. A widow is sat next to her deceased husband's funeral. Sorry, that didn't read right. A widow...
That didn't sound right.
A widow is sat next to her deceased husband's coffin at a funeral. And a man walks up and asks if he can say something. And she says, of course. He leans forward and says, bargain. She was like, what? Thank you. That means a great deal. Another man says, do you mind if I say something? She says, no, go right ahead. He leans forward and says, plethora. And she said, thank you. That means a lot. And from Bunsen, I can just sense the disgust.
Damn.
Yeah.
And on that note,
oh, hang
we'll
on.
go to the
There's another
results.
There's another one, but I'm not doing that one. That's another from Bunsen. Right, yeah, it's time to check. I would say thank you, Ray, for joining us on commentary.
No, it's always a pleasure, even over the shit jokes.
Yep. The sugar was good, though. You know, that one. Even I reckon people would laugh at that. Anyway, right, let's have a look then at the confirmed race results and what that will have done to the championship standings. Demon are then taking the victory, the maximum 20 points. In second place is Steve F1 with SGP in third. Dave Harp fourth, and Jimmy with a good result there in fifth. Twilight finished in sixth with Fluffy in seventh. Bunsley in eighth. Rich Blues in ninth with a minus 3 point penalty for the latter stages of the crash at the end of the race. In 10th, Formula Gary on 7 points. And then we've got Art Powell in 11th on 6 points. Let's have a look then what that's done as to the standings. SGP still leading the way at 13 ahead of Steve F1 now, and 15 ahead of Demon R. So Steve F1 and Demon R closing the gap a little bit. Jason stays fourth on 50 points, but Fluffy Planet is now closer on 48. David Harp in 6th place on 43 points, with Conrad in 7th on 38. Jimmy now in 8th place on 30 points, one ahead of Arpal on 29. Rich Blues and Twilight tied 10th on 26 points, while Mitch is tied 12th with Bunsell, both on 25 points. SRI down to 14th on 20 points. Formerly Gary now up to 15th on 7. Hay 16th on 15 points, and Tyler 17th on 10. Okay, well, it's got a little bit tighter up at the top, but not tight enough just yet for the title fight. Next up, though, is Brazil, so we'll have to see if Steve F1 or Demon R can close that gap even more to SGP, who's got half a hand on the title. Okay, thank you very much for listening, for watching. If you feel like it, hit like, subscribe, and the notifications bell to be notified of when we're going to put some dodgy jokes up. Oh, and have some racing on there as well. Alright, have a good one, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.